Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's movie is a comedy, drama and fantasy movie called About Time. The Lake family lives in harmony in their home by the sea. Mother Mary is always busy there. Always active father James, the charming but distracted uncle Desmond, clumsy boy Tim, and free-spirited daughter Catherine, also known as KitKat. Every year they organize a New Year's party with family and friends. At this year's party, Tim moved through the crowd, feeling awkward and was drawn to his friend Jay. During the countdown to the new year, the girl he danced with, Polly, leans in to kiss, but he shakes her hand. Leaving her disappointed, the next day, Tim wakes up confused with a terrible hangover. He is invited to his father's teaching. His father, James, tells Tim that he is about to share a secret with him that he has never told anyone before. According to James, the men born in his family, including Tim, can travel back in time, but it is limited to their own life. They cannot go to a past they have not experienced or place they have never been. To do this, they must go to a dark place like a big closet and think about the place and time they want to be, and they will find themselves there. Tim goes to the closet and thinks about last night's New Year's Eve party. After a few seconds, he comes out of the closet and is surprised to see himself in yesterday's clothes. Jay pulls him and he immediately lowers his head, avoiding the table he knocked over earlier. On the countdown, he kisses Polly, who reacts in a daze. Later, Tim goes back to the wardrobe and travels to the present. To understand that time travel is real, he skillfully listens to his father's experience and realizes that James probably had a lot of time for them. James advises Tim not to use this ability for money and power, so Tim decides to use it to find love. This summer, KitKat invites her boyfriend's cousins, Charlotte, to stay at the beach house for 2 months. As the family sunbaths with their guest one afternoon, Tim hopes to get on Charlotte's good side. Tim sees an opportunity and agrees to put sunscreen on Charlotte's back, but ends up spilling the bottle on her. Feeling humiliated, he travels back in time and is more relaxed and cautious about it. All summer, Tim tries to impress Charlotte but fails each time until it's too late. And finally, it's Charlotte's last day at home. The night before he leaves, Tim hopes to confess his feelings for her, but is shot down before he could, and realizes that KitKat has already warned Charlotte that he might do so. Charlotte wonders if things would have gone differently if she had talked to him at their house last night. A thought gives him an idea. Tim travels back in time to confess to Charlotte in the summer. But this time Charlotte tells him to ask her again about her last night at their house. It confirms that he never had a chance with Charlotte. Time later gave up vouching for her. The day after Charlotte leaves, Tim leaves their home and moves to London, where he lives with James' friend Harry. Tim is excited for next chapter of his life, but is disappointed to learn that Harry is a short-sighted playwright. For the first 6 months, Tim has no luck with romance, as his career as a lawyer mostly introduces him to other men. His luck turns when Jay takes him to a restaurant when guests dine in complete darkness. Here they are sitting next to a woman named Mary and her friend Joanna. In the dark, Tim and Mary get to know each other and have fun. After dinner, Tim and Jay finally meet the girls face to face. Tim is stunned to see Mary, and it's pretty clear that the pair have made each other's eye work. She gives him her phone number before parting ways. Tim starts home only to be greeted with Harry's angry rant. The opening of his play was ruined by the lead actor forgetting his lines, wanting to make things better. Tim goes back in time and joins Harry at the theatre just before opening night. He approaches Tom, the lead actor, and convinces him to practice his lines. It works, but then the other actor forgets his lines. Tim goes back in time and helps him. The play turns out to be a success. However, when Tim checks his phone, he realizes that Mary's number is gone. He travels in time and erases his beautiful evening with Mary. Tim is shocked and joins an ecstatic Harry for breakfast the next day. Harry shares a newspaper where Tim finds an ad for a cat mouse show in town. Remembering that Mary is a fan of cat mouse, she spends a week on show hoping to meet her. After a whole week, Mary finally walks in and Tim nervously approaches her. However, their relationship doesn't go well and he learns that Mary now has a boyfriend named Rupert. Tim learns that Mary met Rupert at Joanna's party. He learns the details of the party and goes back in time to stop it. Tim arrives at Joanna's apartment and has Mary leave the party before Rupert arrives. Mary is a little hesitant but feels magnetic force pulling her to him. As they leave, they pass Rupert, who was unknowingly walked past his supposed future girlfriend. Meanwhile, they have a nice dinner where they get to know each other even more. Tim walks into Mary's house and she invites him to her apartment. The atmosphere heats up and they take their date to the bedroom. But after tripping over Mary's shoes and struggling to get her bra off, Tim has an awkward first sexual encounter with Mary. He decides to go back in time and this time jumps over Mary's shoes and quickly undresses her. Everything is going well this time, but Tim knows he can do better. After several attempts by Tim, the couple has a perfect first night of passion. Over the next few months, their relationship blossoms and the couple eventually move in together. While at the theater with co-worker, Tim meets Charlotte, but the conversation quickly turns awkward. He tries a second time, but it doesn't work. On the third try, he decides not to contact her, and instead, Charlotte notices him and started a conversation. Charlotte invites him to dinner where he mentions his regret for rejecting him. Charlotte asks him to take her to apartment and tempts him to come inside, but Tim refuses. Being able to reject his first love helps Tim realize how deeply he loved Mary. He runs back home and wakes her up to propose to her. It's not as romantic as he expected, so he does it again. The second time she says yes. This summer, Tim takes Mary home to his parents. Mary and her mother get along and Tim spends quality time with his father. To his surprise, KitKat is also home after a terrible time in London. The Lake family erupts in joy when Tim and Mary's wedding and Mary's pregnancy are announced. Their wedding ceremony is full of romance and laughter. During the ceremony and wedding reception, the wind tears and blows the tent, so everyone has to take shelter in the house. Tim goes back in time and changes his best man as Rory. Harry and Jay mess up their speech until he finally chooses his dad. A month later, Mary gives birth to a daughter, Posy. Tim is fascinated by the experience of raising a child, both in its precious moments and in its difficulties. They are moving to a new house. Soon Posy will have her first birthday. All the guests arrive, including Harry and Rory. But KitKat is late to the party. The doorbell rings and Tim answers it. But instead of KitKat, it's his clumsy boyfriend Jimmy. He and KitKat had an argument earlier that day, which ended up with KitKat driving alone, which led to him crashing a car on the way to Tim's house. Hoping to save her, Tim goes back in time and picks her up from his home. But that doesn't solve the problem. KitKat has a drinking problem stemming from his unhappy relationship with Jimmy. Tim talks to his sister, hoping to contact her. When that doesn't work, he takes KitKat back in time to New Year's Eve party where he met Jimmy. But instead of flirting with Jimmy, she unleashes her pent-up anger on him and punches him, even though she doesn't remember him in that timeline. The siblings return to the present and KitKat immediately realizes her feelings for Jay. This time she meets Jay instead. Their relationship turns out to be better than the one she had with Jimmy. After saving his sister's life and happiness, Tim returns home only to discover that he has a son instead of his daughter, Posy. An unexpected realization breaks his heart. Immediately she goes to the closet and goes back in time to when her son was born to talk to James. James insists that any change he makes before the baby is born will likely result in different baby. If she wants to keep Posy, she can never change anything that happened before Posy was born. Unable to accept the loss of the daughter he knows, Tim goes back in time to undo the changes he made in KitKat's life and allows the car accident to happen. When KitKat is in hospital, Tim and Mary stay by her side while she covers. Their support makes KitKat determined to change his life for the better. Tim remembers an alternative timeline where he is happy with Jay and Tim suggests that KitKat start dating him. When he comes home from the hospital, Tim enjoys being with his daughter. Their happiness inspires her to have another child. Despite Mary's initial objections, 2 years later they become pregnant. One night, Tim helps Mary prepare to meet a best-selling author at her company. but they accidentally leave Posy downstairs, where she destroys the manuscript in Mary's office. Tim wants to use time travel to fix this, but their night is interrupted by a call from his mother telling him that James has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Tim, Mary, and KitKat visit the beach house where Tim talks to his father. Their time travel cannot get rid of his cancer without jeopardizing the birth of Tim and KitKat. After all, time travel can't fix everything life throws at them. James teaches Tim where he sees as a much more important lesson in their abilities. The first is to go through life as normally as possible with all the stresses and worries of everyday life. Second, after he lived the day for the first time, he should go back and live the moments of his life, paying attention to how beautiful the world can be. Tim follows his advice and finds happiness in the everyday and special moments of his life. However, there are days he doesn't want to relive, like the day his father died. Not ready to say goodbye, Tim travels back in time to visit his father while he is still healthy. After James' death, Tim consoles himself that he can still visit his father back at the time where he misses him. One day, however, Mary decides that she wants a third child. Tim hesitated, knowing that having a third child would prevent him from visiting his father anymore. He lets go of the past and decides to continue thinking about the future. Then she agrees to give birth to another child. A month later, Mary is pregnant and about to give birth. This is Tim's last chance to visit his father. He goes back in time and plays table tennis with his father for the last time. Seeing the sadness in Tim's eyes, James realizes that this is their last time together. He accepts this and states that he agrees with his son's decision. As a treat, they both travel back in time to when Tim was a young boy and in better shape and full of energy. James and Tim run and play on the beach one last time. Tim says his last goodbyes to his father and returns to the present where his third child is born. The years pass and Tim continues his life as usual, spending both laughs and tears with his family. He completed his family with Mary, while KitKat also gives birth to a child with Jay. One morning, he lets Mary sleep and cooks breakfast for his children. Enjoying their presence, Tim decides to never time travel again and lives each day as if it were the second time he lived it. This time he focuses on appreciating life from the big events to the smallest details. Hope you like the movie. Please subscribe to my channel and also like and share the video.